Ymedia Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.
ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਜੁੜ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਟੂ ਕੰਬੈਟ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰੂਬੀ ਸਹੋਤਾ ਜੀ। Ruby ji, warm welcome on Ymedia. How are you?
Good. Welcome. Well, thank you for having me on, I guess I should say.
Yes, welcome to Ymedia. Minister, first things first, I know Canada has now declared the Bishnoi gang as the terrorist organization. So I want you to share the details. Please go ahead.
Yes, so Ajhi Savere, it's around 7 something p.m. or a.m. Sorry, CSIS has done the work that was needed to meet the criteria that we require, and the Bishnoi gang is now one of 88 different entities that are listed as a terrorist organization in Canada. This provides law enforcement with many different tools. So they will be able to freeze assets. If there is an exchange of funds happening between people who identify themselves as belonging to this group, that can also be pursued. Financial institutions that hold any assets can all be a part of what gets caught up in this. And so this gives a lot of good tools to police to be able to disrupt crime. So a lot of things are, it's great when someone is charged, they're prosecuted. This is an extra crime in the criminal code that can be applied in cases, and then they're convicted and sentenced. But also what it helps in doing is disrupting organized crime, right? So before a crime begins, or in the middle or pursuit of criminal activity, activities can be disrupted with these extra tools.
Great. And there were allegations that Bishnoi group has been involved in so many extortions. There were allegations of robberies and so many other things. Do you have any idea what percentage we could attribute to the Bishnoi gang of extortion or any other violent crime in Canada?
Because I've asked this question to policing organizations, because there's so many different investigations and different local police of jurisdiction. And then we do have a coordination team at the RCMP that's in BC headquarters that coordinates all these cases. We created that first of a kind extortion task force to coordinate these things. But because a lot of these things are active investigations, and extortion calls are happening, and I'm sure you've heard from people in even recent days, it's hard to say, but I would say that it is one of the most prominent groups that is involved in extortion activity here in Canada. And many calls, whether they are truly linked to Bishnoi or not, that name is one that is one of the most prolific here when it comes to extortions. And so it is important to make sure that people are not engaging in this type of activity, thinking that whether, many cases they have already found that there are connections and very legitimate links to Bishnoi. But there are other cases where the name has been used and they're not sure whether they can establish a direct link. And so because of that, it's difficult to give a percentage, but it is a very big problem. And the organization has been very active here in Canada, but internationally as well.
Any idea how many members of the Bishnoi group, they have been convicted and they have been sentenced and they are behind bars? The number in Canada from the Bishnoi gang, that 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, this is the number that they have been convicted and they've been sentenced now and they've been put behind the bars.
So what's interesting is the provinces are unable to give us any data. I've been asking for data. We're going to have a federal, provincial, territorial meeting on public safety in Alberta in the coming weeks, and I'm going to bring this issue up there. We do not receive any data as to how many provincial courts are able to convict certain types of cases, how many people are released on bail. Especially, I'm very interested to know that we've changed the law in 2024 when it comes to firearms offenses. I would like to know if there are still courts at the provincial level that are releasing people on bail that have discharged a firearm in the commission of a crime. That's really important for us to know at the federal level, so that when we're creating laws and changing the code, we know if we're doing something in the right way or not. So that information I can only get you maybe in the coming days, now that there's a different focus on this as to how many people who may claim to be members, like they were not coordinating it in that way, right? Until now, because it's a terrorist group, there's going to be a different view how people that are connected to this group will be viewed. And so I'd love to be able to get you the number. I know the number of charges, but honestly, I don't know if they're up to date. It's what I have from last month that have been laid, because we do have a system in which we're able to coordinate through different police agencies on charges. But do I know whether they have been in trial, whether those charges have been dropped, or all of that information is at the provincial level. So believe it or not, I think for a good working system, that's been my argument all along. It's very important to have that information, and we need a centralized court system information place where we can figure out what's happening in the provincial courts right now. So charges is all I would know of, and there have been several in Peel. There have been successful trials, actually, I will tell you anecdotally. Successful trials in Edmonton. I met with extortion victims at Edmonton, Surrey, and here locally. And from what I've heard from the officer on some of those files in Edmonton and some of the victims is that the charges that were laid there, they did not receive bail after being charged. The trial did take place, and several people have been convicted and have just started serving their sentence. And so Edmonton is the most successful, I would say, of all the jurisdictions so far in terms of being at that stage. I think Peel will eventually get there because charges have been laid here too, but I don't, to my knowledge, no trials have taken place or court hearings that I know of have happened. But I would love to receive that information from the province if they can provide it.
Right. Yeah, I hope as you just mentioned, there should be some centralized system and some reforms, not just in the bail side, but this as well. Anyways, I clearly remember our former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on 18th September on the floor of the Parliament. There were allegations were made that yes, there's some sort of connection between the Indian government officials and Hardeep Nijjar murder. You and I discussed regarding the public safety, foreign interference, and thank you for that. It was a very detailed discussion here at our studios. At that time, my suggestion to you and many other conservative leaders was, and to your other cabinet colleagues was, that just as US has done, there was allegations in US as well. The law enforcement agencies can do their job, and the diplomatic ties should not take a hit. This was my suggestion to you. And this is now exactly now your current Prime Minister, your leader, Mark Carney is doing, despite repeatedly being asked by the reporters. This is exactly what I suggested to you and everybody else. Your Prime Minister Mark Carney has clearly said that on record in a press conference that we should not be making comments. When he was pressed why Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being invited to G7 summit here in Canada. So exactly my suggestion to you and Justin Trudeau, your former boss and former Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister is doing exactly the same. Why this change in this approach of the former Prime Minister and the current Prime Minister? Please.
Well, I'm glad you like the stance of the current Prime Minister. That's all I guess I could leave it at. They're different people. They have a different style. They have a different way. And this is a new government.
Okay, thank you. Regarding stats, you're saying they're not available. But now let's talk about the Greater Toronto area. There have been so much violent crime here in GTA. There have been so much violent crime in every part of GTA. What do you have to say about any stats that you know regarding the region of York or in Brampton, that's your constituency, that how many home invasions are happening in Brampton? You have any idea?
So overall, like on the severity index of violent crimes, violent homicides is one of the most violent type of crime that we are at a 20-year low. when it comes to homicides in Ontario, in BC, similar numbers, and across the country. I would say Saskatchewan is a bit higher, much higher than Ontario, and other cities and provinces have issues that that we do not have when it comes to homicide. But there has definitely been an increase. Like there was an increase in auto theft. Different resources were applied to that issue. Now there has been a decrease in auto theft. There is an increase in home invasions, property-related crimes. We have definitely seen an increase since the pandemic when it comes to that. So we're working really hard. Hate crime and child sextortion is one of the highest growing types of issues that we see in Canada. Top number of reports was in child extortion, or sextortion as they would call it. And so those are very, very important issues too. And all of these things are of priority and concern to us. So, that's why the second bill that we introduced when becoming a new government was Bill C2, which is the Stronger Borders Act. I know the name talks about borders, but that is to strengthen our borders so that illegal guns do not get in, so that fentanyl and many other drugs that are coming from the US border into Canada, this has always been a problem that we've had in Canada, can be properly intercepted, and we've seen many big interceptions. So there has been a lot more investment in the border, but with this bill, which I hope passes, it will provide law enforcement with many other tools. So right now we're having a little bit of a challenge because Conservatives are opposing certain sections of C2, the lawful access section, because they are arguing based on privacy issues. But a very important aspect of that bill is being able to give law enforcement the ability to go to Rogers or Bell or an internet provider, a different subscription company, and be able to find out if a phone number or an IP address is linked to a certain name of an individual. That's very important. When you have several calls coming in of so many different types of crimes, it makes it very easy for cybercrime, which is the highest growing crime and the most money lost in the country in terms of damage done, and extortions. Also, many other issues, whether it's seniors fraud or other issues like the child exploitation online. It would help police officers be able to investigate those cases much more efficiently. Right now, when I was talking to an individual who is a victim of extortion in Edmonton, he said Google's not being able to give them the police, force any information that they need in order to help with the investigation. And so they've had barriers when it comes to getting that information out of Google in the USA. This bill would create the obligation upon these companies to be able to provide the information under the law, which is basic information. And this helps speed up an investigation. Otherwise, sometimes there's, you're at a dead end and you're not able to do anything, and you don't have enough evidence gathered for a full warrant, and nor do you want to be able to get a warrant on 100 different numbers, right? You just want to be able to eliminate suspects and go after the people that you think are credible suspects. And then at that point, when you feel you have a suspect, you can go to court, get a warrant in order to search a home or a computer or a phone and all of those things. So really, this is just the first step to be able to give police the efficiency that's needed. And the Conservatives are opposing it. The reason I say this and bring this up today is because this is currently being debated in the House of Commons. It's going to go to committee. I would really like all the police chiefs across the country are in support of this, are speaking as to why it will help them in murder cases and extortion cases and so many examples that they gave us. I would like them to support, and your show goes everywhere across the country. So a lot of people have MPs that are of the Conservative Party. So I hope we can work together. I really want to be able to work together to create tougher penalties and give police better tools to combat crime. I think that's very important. And overall, that's the message that the Conservatives always send to be tough on crime, right? And so I'm finding it very surprising that each bill that we're bringing forward, they have been, at least in debate, opposing it, hopefully not in the vote, but we need to put pressure to make sure these things pass. And just last week, we introduced another bill of a rising issue in our country, which is hate crimes. Hate crimes are being reported at numbers we've never seen before. And so that is also very important. We've had incidences here in Brampton, giving more clarity as to what appropriate protest is, protesting in front of a place of worship, intimidating somebody from being able to come in. Once this bill passes, will no longer be legal. You will not be able to prevent somebody or intimidate somebody that is entering their place of worship or their cultural center or a regular place where a religious community is known to attend, or identifiable minority group. And so I think that's very important. Terrorist symbols and flags will also be banned under this bill. There will be a new charge of hate that will be implemented that has severe penalties up to 10 years. And so we're taking this very seriously. We've seen that a lot of international issues, especially the war in Gaza, has caused a lot of tensions here in our communities, whether it is, hate crime against Muslims, Jews, and of course, we're seeing overall hate crimes against Indo-Canadians as well. And so this is an important piece of legislation as well. Not sure where the Conservatives stand on this right now. Some of them are against it, some of them are for it, but I hope in the end they'll support this as well, because I know it'll benefit our community here in Brampton and overall Canadians. And then, I know I'm saying a lot, we will in a couple of weeks have a new bill on bail reform. That's a much lengthier bill and a much more complicated bill, to make sure that we have all of the recommendations that have been given to us by police chiefs across this country, through Crown Council. Lots of consultation has happened in this summer, that me, the Justice Minister, the Public Safety Minister have all been involved in, so that we can create this bill and make sure that the things that people are asking for are addressed, the concerns that they have about home invasions and repeat offenders and even retail crime that we're seeing, but repetitively over and over again. It's really harming our businesses. And extortions also are going to be addressed in this bill. I won't be able to get into the minute details of the bill until it is tabled and it comes out. But I just want to let you know that all of those things will be addressed in this bill, and we will also have stiffer sentences, meaning that there will be, well, I guess I might be getting into too much detail, but there will be stiffer sentences and longer sentences for people committing some of these crimes that we are saying and that you were mentioning are on the increase in Canada.
Yeah, I know you got a very challenging portfolio because it's not easy to tackle crime, and which I probably think you were mentioning the severity index. Yeah, the Fraser Institute clearly read that report by the Fraser Institute on the severity index. It's clearly on the rise. We could cherry pick the stats, that's for us to cherry pick the stats, but I clearly see that it is on the rise. Even if you want to compare 2014 when the Conservatives were in power and now 2024. The 10 years of the Liberal government, really can't boast if you look at the numbers. And I'll pick your, you said it, the severity index, and I'm referring to the severity index from the Fraser Institute report. I've read that complete report, and anyways. Almost 3 break-ins in just the last month. I was checking the numbers.
So I'll say I'm going off of the RCMP's and public safety's data, not a public policy group, but those are the numbers I'm going off of, and homicides are at a 20-year low. So I'll repeat that, but I have said auto theft, home invasions are up, right? So, and youth crime is up right now. So, those are issues that I want to tackle and address. I'm not by any means saying that there is no crime in this country. There is, and we've seen an uptick in certain areas, and we're going to address all of those areas in this new upcoming legislation. But overall homicides are down. So that's good news in some ways, because obviously public safety looks at the worst thing that could ever happen, and the worst outcome in any situation is a death occurring. However, that doesn't give comfort to somebody whose house has just been invaded and they still feel unsafe in their community, right? So property theft and the violence that's used in stealing that property is up, and I think that is what causes those numbers to go up that you're talking about.
But been listening to, whether it was the Liberal government's former Justice Minister David Limiti, or former Minister Arif Virani, and now your current Justice Minister. I mean, we've been listening about bail reforms for many years from the Liberal government, and you're also talking about bail reforms, but nothing much has changed. Just in Brampton itself, there have been 3 break-ins every single day on an average, 3 break-ins only in Brampton. You go to Mississauga, there could be 2. You go to the region of York, the police chief just mentioned, the police chief in the York region just mentioned, police alone cannot do much, and they're asking for bail reforms in Vancouver, in Calgary.
So everything they're asking for is going to be in this bill. So we're going to hand it to them on a silver platter. I hope they'll be very excited, but a key part of this is applying the law in our provincial courts. So if your audience, is not aware, these laws are just written on paper, and they need to be applied by provincial judges, the Criminal Code of Canada, that is, by provincial judges and in provincial courts, right? That's where criminal prosecutions happen for a majority of cases other than terrorism, CRA, immigration, and very few drug type offenses. So like over 90% of criminal prosecutions happen in our provincial courts. And like I said, it's a one law for the country. Bail was not given in any of the extortion cases out in Edmonton. What I'm seeing, I've sat through bail court here in Brampton several days. I'm seeing a dysfunction in the court system. Public safety is supposed to be the first thing, even under today's law. Public safety is supposed to be considered when releasing somebody. But judges are considering stuff like no space in the prisons, in the provincial jails. They're considering human rights of the defendant, right? They're considering all these different things. So we're hoping that with this new legislation, we will refocus them. But in 2024, we put a reverse onus on firearm offenses. So if you are committing an offense with a firearm, there's a reverse onus, which is the toughest thing you can put in place right now constitutionally for bail. There will be other reverse onuses in this upcoming legislation. But I would love to know that in January 2024, we passed that. I'd like to know the data in the provincial courts, like what has happened. Are they applying it or are they not applying it? Are the judges not doing what they've been told on paper in the code to do, or are they doing it? That's really important for me to know. And the province is saying they can't provide any of that information, but they'll yell and scream that things are not working. They're dismissing over 50% of criminal cases in their provincial courts. What's going on? Why are they dismissing these cases? Why are Crown Counsel, pleading down charges? Why aren't they giving stiffer penalties? The penalties are written in the code, right? So they could choose to give very stiff penalties. Crown Counsel shouldn't be dismissing or pleading down cases if they too are concerned. So I think, honestly, Premier Ford and other provinces as well, they need to do their job too and resource their courts, make sure that they have enough judges. Their judges are well trained. Maybe JPs shouldn't be looking, after these bail decisions if they feel they're not making the right decision. And they should have enough Crown Counsel to get through cases so they're not dismissing them. And they are overburdened, I guess. When I look, it's very inefficient what's happening in the courtroom. So we will again change the code. We'll put in everything that the police is asking for and everything that you're talking about, Yadvir. But the implementation of that will happen at the provincial court level. And I'd love to know if the firearm offenses made any change, because otherwise we'll make more changes in the code. We'll write it down, but it has to be applied there. So both things are going to have to happen at the end of the day. And if you talk about the last 10 years, you should talk about the court system too. How many are the jails over full? At least 75%, I can tell you, and some numbers tell me up to 80, are people waiting in pre-trial detention in our local prisons here, pre-trial detention. So really, most of the people there are denied bail that are in that facility, and they need to make more space if they need to, hold more people. If they want people, and they want their judges to make certain decisions, then they have to figure out why their judges are making the decisions they want. They've identified one thing, which is what they want us to change in the code. We're going to do that, but they're going to have to do all of the rest. And if the judges continue to still let people out on bail, then I think there's other things that they're going to have to look at.
Talking about reverse onus, Conservative leader Pierre Polye was here at our studios recently. So was the Deputy Leader Tim Uppal, Jasraj Hallan. All three of them made a common point regarding you talking about reverse onus and self-defense. 3 break-ins every single day in Brampton. 3 break-ins as we speak. This is I'm talking about August and September. 3 break-ins, and the numbers are from Peel Police. Almost 2 break-ins in Mississauga, York region. Let's not go into too much details. My question is very simple, which the Conservative leader Pierre Polye has also proposed. You are talking about reverse onus. Why we cannot make a law that anybody, just as Pierre Polye has suggested, the Conservatives are suggesting, you could make this law. Why these people, anybody who is involved in a home invasion, the state has no protection. There is no business of anybody breaking anybody's home 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. And every day, 3 in your own home riding.
So home invasion is illegal, right, Yadvir?
Yeah,
it's already in the code, and it's already illegal.
But why are we giving them protection in the name of self-defense? Why?
I don't even know what you're talking about. So I haven't heard a case like that in Brampton.
I'm talking about a very simple thing. When the law says disproportionate use of self-defense, the hands are tied. When somebody does a home invasion. Did you read about the incidents that happened in Lindsay, Ontario? Did you read about that?
Yes, I did. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the case and what happens. The police is standing by that case. So your provincial police, I don't know, maybe Ford's got to figure out why their provincial police laid those charges. They obviously went to the scene, saw something that they felt was illegal, and made that charge. In most cases, police does not charge, right? There's so many cases where they go in because you are allowed self-defense that is reasonable. And so I think disproportionate.
What is a reasonable self-defense? Rubiji, sorry, I never interrupt. But
so if somebody's about to kill you, you can kill them.
If somebody is invading somebody's home at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. on very regular basis, every day, 3 home invasions in Brampton. Every day, 3 home invasions as we speak. You can check the records from Peel Police. So what is a reasonable amount of self-defense we can use? Can you please explain so that we can also understand what is a reasonable self-defense, please?
So in cases that I've read, if somebody has been, has come into your home and the person has stabbed that person and the person is unconscious on the ground, a person is to wait, and police is on their way. If then somebody stands over that person and stabs them 27 more times, that is considered unreasonable because the threat is gone. So if you can remove the threat, then that is when most courts have decided. But really, it is something that the courts would look into and the police would look into. I hear you, Yadvir. I'll take that feedback back. But really, what we want to do is decrease home invasions, right? So the new bill will address home invasions, will make harsher penalties for those that go into somebody's home. Right now, there are very harsh penalties, but we're going to make it even tougher. We're going to put in consecutive sentences as well. We'll put in more reverse onuses for anyone who commits those crimes as well, any kind of repeat offenders. So we're going to do everything from the code's perspective. When it comes to this issue, really, I hope that nobody has to encounter that issue, right? Because I think why you heard the police come out and make statements that they did, and is because they don't really want people. It's the police's job to protect our communities, right? And our jobs. And so I would never want to advise someone to do something like that and the situation escalates and becomes worse, right? What we want to do again is keep the homicide rate down. I don't want there to be 2 homicides in the place where there could have been 0, right? And so I think that's really calmer heads should prevail. And, I think like one of my colleagues says something really great, the defense minister. He always says his mother said that you can't be angry and smart at the same time, right? So we shouldn't approach this from like an angry perspective in terms of making laws. I think we should be calm and we should follow what is good expert advice, what works in this case, what doesn't, maybe even what other countries have done as is effective, has shown proven data to bring down and reduce crime. I think that's very important to me. I want to see crime reduced, not escalated, not increased. And I understand the sentiments that people have. I completely understand it. I'm a public figure, right? I'm targeted many times and I'm out in the community. And nothing can be worse than your home being invaded. Nothing can be worse. And so we want to punish the criminals and put them behind bars. That's the intention of the upcoming bill. That is the intention of the hate crime bill, because hate crime has increased so much. And I would also, once again, go back to C2, which is now being debated and going to committee. That has a lot of great things to also make sure that we can counter organized crime, right? A lot of these things are happening because organized crime is allowed to flourish right now in our country. And so there are stricter penalties when it comes to organized crime financing in C2. There are stricter ways to protect our borders in that bill. And there's a better way for police to be able to investigate extortions and child exploitation and many, many cases like that. So I would hope that, we get that bill passed, because that was all recommended by police. Police want that. If they don't get that, they're going to be discouraged again, that they're not getting the tools they need to do their work. So they're going to they've gotten that. There was, gray area around hate crime. We've presented that. And now bail reform and sentencing, changes are going to be coming in the coming weeks. And so we'll be doing all of that work, and I guess that's what I want to announce today. And with the listing of Bishnoi as a terrorist organization, that is going to help police even more to be able to disrupt crime before it starts or in the progress of that crime, and also it'll allow courts to be able to apply, charges that they would have never thought in those cases as well. So I think everyone, it's like a warning to anyone, even those that may think that glamorizing this gang is a fun thing to do, whether it's on their social media or anywhere. I would tell them to beware. And, the very fact that you are in the property or collaborating with somebody who claims to be of this organization or is linked to this organization can cause you lots of trouble in the coming days. So I think that's going to be very, very good when it comes to the increase that we've seen in extortions in our communities.
One last question, if I could squeeze in. I definitely respect your time. Just one last question. Without blurring the lines, yes, I must say that yes, your Prime Minister Mark Carney, he's taking active steps in many directions, and he has a massive challenge, and I appreciate that he's trying to do as much as he can. And I appreciate your portfolio is also very challenging. It's not easy to tackle crime. So we appreciate your time. But I also must. I want to say this and we like Prime Minister Mark Carney is very active. So is the Conservative Party, which is good for the Canadians. But what took you so long? You said Ymedia channel Y goes right across Canada, and I don't think so. There is any other media in Canada, not even CBC, which has print, radio, digital platforms, and 24/7 TV. They could be in TV or radio. They could be print. But what took you so long? Crime is a very important issue to come to Ymedia. You should have come yourself. We requested many times, and now here you are. What took you so long to talk about crime, which is so important in the region of GTA?
I was very busy throughout the summer consulting with people that are victims of crime, which is very important. I want to come to your channel to inform.
Without blurring the lines, I must say this. I take the liberty of talking to you of different issues, because without blurring the lines, I have to repeatedly say this, because I'm never going to shy away from asking you the tough questions, because I consider you one of the few, You may like it or not, one of the few competent, yeah, you're one of the few competent people, and I want you to stay in politics. It's your, thing, whether you want to be at federal, provincial, municipal, but I want you to stay, but I'll never shy away from asking you the toughest questions here. And because you're one of the few competent people, and I want more and more competent people like you to stay in there, but I will not shy away from asking you the tough questions. But I will not take your answer. You were busy, that's fine. But I think many Canadians,
I
they
was
rely
going
on
to
Ymedia. They rely
I
on
was going to
Ymedia.
elaborate on that. I mean, that wasn't the end of the answer.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is a new government. This is a new role that I've received in May. It's very important to understand the issue. My job is to inform new legislation to come forward. So if you want to talk about each crime that happens, like I don't investigate the crime. I'm not the police on the front end level that can tell you, this happened in a certain case or this happened. So my job was this summer to be informed by the different issues people are facing, how, talking to experts on the ground as well, going to bail hearings, watching what's happening in those bail hearings, talking to police across this country, right, as to what they need, what they don't need, so that I can bring forward with the Justice Minister and Public Safety Minister good, fulsome legislation. Um, and then we can talk about that legislation, right? Because I'm a legislator, right? So yes, I could come on to comment on each crime that's happening, but those aren't fair comments for me to make sometimes, right? So sometimes I want to make sure that what I'm saying is appropriate given my position and valuable to your viewers, right? If I keep coming on to just say, oh, something is coming in the development phase, I don't think that's very satisfactory. So it's always good to come with something that I can present that is different, that you can question me on. But in the past year, I'm probably one of the people that have come on the most. So if we, want to do another sit down in your studio, I would love that once the bail legislation maybe comes out, or another time that you think, there's something meaty to talk about. Happy to do that, right? And in terms of understanding what's happening, I was getting those numbers, right, from local police and listening to people coming into my office that are the victims of crimes. So I spoke to more people that were the victim of crimes than I ever have before, right, across the country during this summer. And I thought that was very valuable and helpful to get a better understanding of the issue.
A lot of you mentioned Indo-Canadians. A lot of Indo-Canadians are in fear right now. I mean, common Canadians are also in fear right now. But because, whether it was the businessman shot here, I don't want you to comment on specific cases, but in general, I'm saying businessman shot here in GTA, in Mississauga, in Brampton, whether we've seen shootings in British Columbia, whether we see crime in Edmonton and in Calgary, but people are in fear, not only because of exhaustion, but so many shootings and so many homicides as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I spoke to a lot of those extortion victims firsthand. I spoke to them in BC, I spoke to them in Edmonton, I've spoken to many here. I'm sure there's many I haven't spoken to, but I spoke to a fair amount that were willing to talk, share their story, and come forward. All of that information, all of those notes were obviously shared with Public Safety Department, with the RCMP. Got to visit the national coordination team that's been created out in BC in the RCMP headquarters that monitors all these extortion cases across the country, and even giving them a little bit more of the on-ground reality of what this is causing, right? It's causing people not to invest in their community. It's causing them to not believe, like, in our country. So it's very important that we get a hold on this and tackle it so that Canadians feel safe in their communities. Nothing is more important to me. Will we ever be able to eliminate crime completely? No, there'll be a news story every day of something somewhere, right? But we can make sure that we decrease numbers and we have some of the lowest numbers across the world. That's very important to me.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, and we will carry on the discussion. But I'll still say this, maybe every quarterly is just 4 times in a year. I don't think so. It's a huge ask. So in case,
and I think I came in June or something. Or when was the last time I came into your studio?
Not in June, not in June for sure. No, not in. in June. You came before that. Last time we spoke was on foreign interference. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. That's okay. I don't
Oh,
think
and in the election.
yeah, yeah,
okay.
I don't need, that was in federal election. I don't want to make about why media or myself. No, because I think so many Canadians rely on why media. And here we are at this studio, 105.9. This is not just from South Asian. This serves the region of GTA. And this is a mainstream channel. You being broadcasted not only on Channel Y right now, you're live on 105.9 FM as well. And this is 80% plus English channel. So and the only free English newspaper in Canada. You're going to be on the front page midweek. So I think a lot of Canadians now rely on Y Media, whether it's print, because there is no other free English newspaper. Do you have any free English newspaper in Brampton? Do you? Do you have any free English newspaper in Mississauga? Do you? Do you have any free English newspaper in Brampton, Mississauga, Caledon? Absolutely not. Zero. Zilch. So there's only one newspaper. Every week people pick midweek newspaper. Every single library in your constituency, Brampton, has only one free English newspaper. Rest everything.
Absolutely. I think that's great. My first job was delivering a newspaper, the Brampton Guardian. So the main newspaper when I was in grade 7. I have a big respect for journalists and for from print media to all the different new modes that have been created, and I'll do the best I can to be on your channel and other channels as much as needed. And so I'm sorry about that if you felt that it was intentional. It was not intentional.
I'm not looking for an apology from you, especially from someone like you. So absolutely not. I'm only here trying to express the concerns. And let me tell you this thing once again, without blurring the lines, I must say this. It's in the interest of Canadians and you. We are just the commentators. I've never joined politics, although they say never. I have no interest in anything except for media and Canadians. The community, when they ask us, when we sell that, yes, we've been talking to Ruby Sahota ji, we want her here. So they say, bring her on, please. We want to listen to her, because even if you come over, and it's assuring, and every.
But it's always important to have something tangible to talk about, right? Because from my role, my role is not to just comment on general things happening, right? That we have to be very careful from a government position that we were talking about things that we've observed, that we've studied. It's given me some time this summer to really, the things I mentioned today that the province also needs to do is not because I just feel it in my gut. It's because I've firsthand witnessed it. I've talked to many people that aren't willing to even talk, that work as Crown prosecutors, aren't willing to publicly talk, that have been the court managers of some of these courts that handle all the caseload, and police as well. And so that has informed a lot of the things that I'm mentioning here today, and also the legislation that has come forward has been informed by police and C2 as well. So that's the big importance right now for me, because in the coming days we're going to have that legislation go to committee, and I'd love to see that we are able to two of our top priorities. It's really important to get the economy growing again and diversified. And so you see that, some people have criticized this travel, but I think it's very, very necessary in order to, you can't, build relationships and have new partnerships with other countries without it.
Ymedia Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.